Welcome to I Love This Thing So Fricking Much, a podcast about passion. My name is Sophie Katz, and today I am joined by Rich Smith, Creative Director at Guernsey Tingle Architects. Welcome to the show, Rich.
Hi guys, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm doing well.
So, here's how this works. Rich will have 3 minutes to talk about something that he loves. This can be a person, place, thing, concept, activity, anything he wants. Our only requirement is that he loves it wholeheartedly and wants to tell us why. Are you ready, Rich?
I'm ready.
Good. Got my timer here. Now, what do you love so freaking much?
I love Busch Gardens theme park history so freaking much. And it started, I grew up in Williamsburg, so Busch Gardens Williamsburg is my home theme park. And as a kid, theme parks are the bomb, right? So you're always hanging out there. I have all these old memories of when I was a kid, all the old rides like Glissade and Turvey Manor, Third Needle Fair, all these older ones before the roller coasters really came in. And that began, like as a young kid, I used to want to know how it worked and what was there before because I was alive, I guess, when they built it. But as it's grown over time, it got bigger, and my family went to Busch Gardens Tampa, and that was when I was like 8 or something like that. I was fascinated by there were 2 Busch Gardens, and one was like the Dark Continent, and one was the Old Country, and why they were that. And even as a young kid, I was trying to figure out like what's the purpose for this. And the Dark Continent seemed so mysterious at the time, and then I go back to the Old Country, and I liked how each country had its own flavor, and there were like little countries inside, and I was really proud that I knew the hamlets as a young kid because I was a nerd, and this stuff that goes. And then my teen years, I started to get into to really focused on what the history was and where the plans came from and what they worked on and the early renderings of the park. I was like really fascinated by what it came from and why it was there and why Anheuser-Busch wanted to make a theme park. Why is it called Busch Gardens? Why is it a garden? All that kind of stuff. I was just fascinated by what was a garden. It was a beer garden, and they converted that to theme parks, and they really were just there in the original days. Anheuser-Busch just wanted to promote their beer sales, and the parks making a profit wasn't the primary focus. It was more about selling beer and having a good relationship with the public, and therefore they would buy more Budweiser or whatever it was. And it was fascinating, and built these fantastic rides in this regional park, and that was awesome. And then in my college years, as we're rushing along here, in my college years, all the time I have left, I got into the internet. Oh my God, the internet just set me on fire. So then I could find old park maps and like geological maps, like Busch Gardens wasn't a park. That whole Rhine River was not even there. It was just a ravine, and they dammed it up and filled it in as a lake. And as a kid, I thought that thing was huge, this giant lake. And it was actually just a dammed up stream. And now they have boats in it and stuff, but that fascinated me. And then Loch Ness Monster came in. I remember like this vague memory. My brother rode Loch Ness, and he was older than me, and he like rode Loch Ness because he was brave. And I remember like there were pieces of steel in the parking lot when they were building it, and it was a really secretive back then because you didn't have the internet back in the 70s. But in the internet, I go back and I find all these memories, and with Eagle One and the monorail and the hospitality house, and then I go into what happened to Tampa, and I had not been to Tampa since I was a kid. But then I want to know what happened to Tampa. How did Tampa evolve? And it turns out there was a brewery in the middle of that park, and they took the brewery out and they put a giant ride in the middle of it. That was fascinating. And then smash cut to I'm out of college, and I get as an architect. I worked as an architecture. I was just doing regular architecture, interior design, and that was all great and gravy. Then came back to Williamsburg, near my hometown here.
Go ahead and finish your thought.
And then it evolved to working for the parks, and that made it even more so that now I get to see all the background on all the old maps and all the old plans, and that's fascinating to me. And that's it.
That's awesome. Thank you for telling us about Busch Gardens today.
Sure.
Let's take that road down memory lane for just a moment. Do you remember any favorite like rides or attractions that really stood out to you when you were a kid visiting these parks?
My favorite ride was Glissade, and it was an old Jetstar, and I loved it because I could ride it, and it felt like a big kid's ride, but I wasn't the most adventurous kid. I wasn't going up and down. I wasn't on the Loch Ness Monster yet, but I could ride Glissade, and I was proud of myself for doing that. You know, I remember like the scents and the smells of old Busch Gardens. I remember they used to have this pine bark everywhere, and you could smell that creosoted timbers and the pine bark kind of blended together. And that meant Williamsburg to me. I meant Busch Gardens to me. And that scent still sticks with me. When I smell that, no matter where I'm at, like, oh, I'm at Busch Gardens, and I think it's 1987 again.
It just goes to show like how all 5 senses come to be a part of your experience in like a theme park environment.
Yeah, you just get these flashes, these like vignettes of things from 20 years ago or 40 years ago now, and a scent can bring that back. I remember I was in an Orlando hotel near a park, old Dixie Landings, and I smelled that smell. I was like, well, it smells like a theme park. It feels like this memory, but I couldn't remember where it was. And then it dawned on me, oh, this is Busch Gardens, and it was creosoted timber. That creosote smell from old telephone poles and railroad ties, that meant Busch Gardens to me. And then you flash back, like they used a lot of railroad ties in original Busch Gardens, I guess, because that's what I remember is that funky kind of petroleum smell.
I loved hearing about your journey of curiosity with Busch Gardens. It was first about how did this place come to be, and then wait, there's another Busch Gardens. Like, what were some of like the differences that you noticed as a kid, and perhaps the questions you then pursued as you got access to the internet later?
I found out that Busch Gardens were built around breweries, and that's kind of why they were there. And the Tampa one was literally built around the brewery. So the brewery was in the middle. And that was fascinating to me. So then I went back and looked at the other Busch Gardens, and most of them are gone now. There's only two left. And the one here was purposely built next to the brewery when they developed it. And that fascinated me because the brewery, the business park, and the theme park are all one tract of land at the time. And Anheuser-Busch, Augie Busch, as we called, was the main guy back then. He bought all of that and developed it all as one big theme park and brewery establishment, right? It wasn't an evolution per se. That was all purpose built. They actually share power lines coming in. This is something I learned as an architect now working for them, is that they share the same grid, which is difficult because they're not owned by the same people anymore. But that being developed all at one time was just fascinating to me, and how it all happened. Like, it took a while, right? But they developed it all at one time. And that's huge for Williamsburg, Virginia. Like, that's a big thing to happen in a regional park, you know?
In your pursuits of the story and history of Busch Gardens, do you find anything about why a theme park? Why did they go from beer garden, we want people to be focused on the drinks, to, hey, a ride is a good thing to draw people in?
That's fun too, because it was originally like just a brewery, and they had the hospitality house, and they were trying to drive people towards the brewery. And I think they're trying to appeal to the whole family. Your 12, 14-year-old kid isn't going to be drinking beer at the beer garden, but how do you get mom and the kids to show up, and then dad can go drink beer or whatever? And that's what you do. You end up with these family rides, and they became thrill rides, and it starts to become an evolution. And I think what happened was, and this is just me guessing, but I think when they start to see the evolution of Disney, what they were doing, and SeaWorld was ramping up, and they weren't part of Busch Gardens back then. They weren't part of Busch Gardens till like the late 80s, I think it was. It's kind of an arms race as it is now. So if you want to attract family vacationers, that's what Busch Gardens was trying to do, getting the families in and getting them associated with the Anheuser-Busch brand. They had to have other things to draw them in. And that beget the smaller rides, the Glacés of the world. Then Loch Ness Monster was their first big one, and that brought in teenagers. And I think it was a snowball. And once that became a big draw, the coasters, then they need to have more coasters and better coasters. And you get stuck up into that, and it's become an arms race. And I love it. We all love it because we get these fantastic parks with these multi-generational attractions in it now.
As you've looked into these stories of the past for Busch Gardens, have you found anything that surprises you?
Oh yeah, one of my favorites was New France in the Busch Gardens Williamsburg theme park. So New France is oddly shaped. So the old country is all European countries. You know, there's Italy, Germany, France, England, whatever, and then New France, which is Canada, right? It's not France at all. It's Canada. It's in the wrong continent. Why is Canada there? Well, when the park first opened, before it opened, they had this log flume, and Augie loved the log flume, right? So he wanted to have a log flume in his park. He's got one in his Tampa park as well. But anyway, the New France thing, the reason it's New France is they had this deal on these log cabins. And I heard this directly from a couple people that go back that far. They needed to expand the park, they needed to fill out another country. They had a deal on these log cabin kits, and there's like three of them, I think, and they're still in the park. But that's why it's there, because there were log cabins. Like, well, how do we make this work? And some genius somewhere, I don't know who it was, said, okay, well, we're next to France. Let's make it New France. It's kind of like France, and they could use the log cabins and have the log flume. The log from the original log flume is called Le Scoot, and right now it has carved logs, as most of them do. Back in the day, when Arrow first built this thing, you had an option of three or four different ride vehicles. One was a boat, one was a bunch of barrels, and one was a log. What I've heard directly from the person who talked to Augie back in the day, the first log flume, look back in the pictures, they weren't logs at all. And you went through a sawmill too. You went through a sawmill with an oscillating saw, and it was awesome. But you were actually riding barrels that were strapped together. Why you're going through a saw and it'll be cut in half, I'm not sure. Yeah, the reason they picked out these barrels is because August Busch thought they looked most like beer kegs. And the log flume didn't make sense to him, but he liked the fact that you would be riding around in beer kegs. So that's what the original log flume has barrels on it, is because he thought it looked like beer kegs.
So he really was thinking about the brand and the theming of his site.
Right, but the theming of the site is a sawmill. The Q says sawmill. The log flume itself is a log flume going into a sawmill. The big finale scene that we got to work on that too was a sawmill. Like, but the only thing that's not sawmill is the ride vehicles, which I love, and it's so adorable that the backstory is he just wanted to have big beer kegs to ride around and thought it was adorable.
Let's bring the story to the present. Talk a little more about how your passion for Busch Gardens led to your current work today as an architect.
I started out in architecture and I went straight to architecture. And it was fine. I did interior design. I was doing a good job. I loved it, but I didn't I liked it, I should say. I didn't love it. And I always wanted to work in theme parks. I've always been a theme park nerd back in the Disney days when they developed. I was always chasing books and reading, that was my hobby. And then when I moved back to my hometown here in Williamsburg, I got a job with a local firm and they did some bathrooms here at Busch Gardens. They were just doing the refits. They do the old 4 1/4 white tile. And it's okay. We were doing that, but I wanted to do one. So I asked the firm if I could do the next bathroom. Like, yeah, sure, whatever, boss. I don't know why you want to do that, but I did. And I themed it and it was fun. And Busch Gardens liked the fact that I themed their bathroom for them. And then they gave me a full new bed bathroom, like ground up. It's like, all right, here you need a new bathroom in New France, actually. And said, you can go ahead and theme this. So I wrote a backstory for it about it being a ski lodge and there was a ski instructor there, but it's just a bathroom, right? It's a big log cabin thing. I love doing it. And they really liked the fact that it had story and it was in the middle of their themed park. And that became another bathroom. Then the bathrooms evolved into doing a restaurant, and the restaurant evolved in doing a first roller coaster was Invader. It's this high, right? Because I became an architect because that's what I should do, and it felt like a good professional thing to do. I was, creative, and I enjoyed that. But then to be able to work your passion into the thing that you want to do for a living, man, that's when my career just took off because I loved working in the theme parks. I loved Busch Gardens, and all of a sudden you're working with these people who put these rides together when you were a kid, and then I'm working on the rides and the evolution of those rides. And in the past few years, I've got to work on rides that I admired as a kid, like the new Loch Ness Monster. Like I was a Loch Ness Monster fan when I was a little boy, and then now I'm working on the new Loch Ness Monster. It's one of those moments where your life kind of comes full circle, and you've done all these other things everywhere else in the world, and you kind of finally come home to what you love. Like, oh my God, I'm working in Busch Gardens. That's just been a dream for me.
Is there anything that you don't like about Busch Gardens and its history? And if so, how do you handle that?
So I'll answer that politically because I still work for Busch Gardens and I do love them. And we've got some really fun things coming up. I've learned the money side of everything. You have to factor in what is the ROI on something. It can be an amazing ride, but because I think it's amazing, does that mean that a new family will come in or that somebody will stay longer or that somebody else wants to ride that thing? I may want to do a historically accurate version of Loch Ness Monster or whatever, but that may not be what people want to have anymore. So my job is to make it something that people will want to love, that the next generation of 14-year-old kids go, oh gosh, that's my favorite thing in the park. You really have to see it for what it really is and say, okay, that was a great ride for 1982. And that's been hard to go, okay, this great thing that I love so much really doesn't work anymore. It's the memory that I love so much, not so much the attraction sometimes.
And what a wonderful thing that you get to be a part of that transformation, bringing something that you loved in the past into the future.
It's the best. It's the best feeling to have somebody bring you in and say, what would you do to make this better or to make this thing happen? We just did Big Bad Wolf, and I don't be an advertisement here or anything, but emotionally for me, doing the Big Bad Wolf, oh my God, 14-year-old self would not believe it. Like, you get to be art director on the Big Bad Wolf. Holy, really? Like, you're asking me what to do? Oh my God, then yeah, I would love to. And you end up loving and be so passionately involved in that thing and then having it actually happen and seeing people enjoy it and scream and laugh and stuff. We did the entrance on the park a long time ago, one of the very early projects I did. And looking back, it's not a big deal. But to me at the time, it was huge because I stood there and when they turned the BGM on and all the people came in to go into the park, people were wowing and giggling and walking in and taking pictures of the fountain that we had done or in front of the archway that we had made. To see the people love it and to see people like take pictures of themselves with your stuff behind them, that's all you ever asked for. That's exactly what we do this for. This is why I'm so passionate about it, why I would do it for nothing, just because it's so damn enjoyable to see someone have a good time because of a story that you told. It's amazing.
Rich, thank you so much for telling us about something you love today.
Sure.
And thank you, our listeners, for tuning in today. If you'd like to learn more about Busch Gardens or our guest Rich, you can find his firm's website in the episode description. And if you have something you love so freaking much you want to tell me all about it, consider this your invitation to join the show. I Love This Thing So Freaking Much is a production of Through the Window Media. This episode was directed and edited by Sophie A. Katz. You can find us at Through the Window on Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, and Tumblr. That is THROU the Window at all those social media sites. Be good to yourself, be kind to each other, and you'll hear from us again soon.